On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Extra Time with Mike Graham on Talk Sport.
This is Mickey Quinn, the official announcer of today's Two Mikes podcast.
Right now, we're going to have a special guest on, Mike. Tom Bartlett is a senior writer at the Chronicle of Higher Education. We've been talking a lot about haircut-related footballers, and we've got a few here. Somebody's actually sent in, Tony the Trucking Gooner says, how about Spike Parry and Mike Graham? Not footballers, but thought you'd actually quite like them.
Quite like that.
Tom,
like
who's
that.
a Man City fan, says Keith Kisscurl or Kenny Sideburns as fringe players. I like that as well. Well, the thing about Tom, though, is he's not going to talk about haircuts. He's going to talk about beards, because there's been a fascinating study done in the United States of America from where Tom hails, and they found out that people with beards are actually less credible than people without them.
No, that's not true.
No, that's what he's going to tell me.
No, he's not. No.
Well, let's talk to Tom and find out. Tom, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Now, there was a study done in the Journal of Marketing Communications, Tom, and I understand that they found that men with beards were less credible than men who didn't have beards. Is that right?
Well, so actually that's not right. The opposite turns out to be true. Men with beards turn out to be more credible than men without beards, so long as
Are you sure about that?
I am absolutely sure about that.
Yeah.
And there have been a couple of studies that suggest the same thing. So long as those beards are neatly trimmed. If you have a big scraggly beard, you're not perceived as
So my colleague, Mr.
Parry,
who I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to see a picture of him, his beard would, I think, be described, I would say, as kind of scraggly. So your study for him does not apply, in other words.
Well, that's right. That's the case. It needs to be sort of neatly trimmed. And so the study looked at whether people considered men with beards credible, sort of mature, experienced, whether they would be good sort of salesmen for toothpaste or cars or whatever. And if they had beards, they were considered more...
it's absolutely right. Tom, I am... first of all, Tom, welcome to the show. Can I first of all apologise to my colleague Mike for not doing his research before he spoke to you? The minute
I was told it was the opposite.
Excuse me. The minute I knew you were coming on, I read this report that you're focusing on tonight, because I like to know the subject that I'm talking about. I'm sorry about the pig ignorance
First time for everything.
Of the guy opposite me. Secondly, you're absolutely right about beards, Tom. Thirdly, if you do look at a picture of me on the website, you'll see that my beard is extremely neat and closely cropped. Every year at Christmas, I get bought a new, what we call baby something or other.
So you trim it once a year?
No. I trim it once every couple of days and keep it utterly neat. And you're so right about the trustworthiness. In the ancient world, of course, a man without a beard could be stoned to death for being... No, it's true. Could be stoned to death for being so odd and unnatural. It would be today like walking around naked.
As well they should be. And you might also...
Well, you think they should be... I'm not sure about this study of yours, Tom. You think men without beards should be stoned to death? Hello?
I believe that quite strongly, indeed.
Yeah,
But
good.
I also... So there are also studies that suggest that men with beards are more attractive to women.
Well, that's true.
Well, that's definitely not true in Paul Parry's case.
That is true. I've had to fight women off over the ages and all that kind of stuff.
Most of them had white sticks.
You see, he can't take this seriously because he's been embarrassed by his lack of knowledge. Let me ask you about this, Tom. Historically, how did man ever exist without a beard in the ancient world? Because, of course, unless you've got a very, very sharp blade, you can't get the hair off your face, particularly in the days when people are a lot hairier than we are now. Did they used to set fire to it, I'm told?
I think you make a strong point. No, the only men without beards were boys. All men would have beards, which makes sense that there's this evolutionary component, which makes sense that that women would be attracted to men with beards, because that's traditionally
so you're saying they're more virile, and women would look at men without beards as sort of youngsters and guys that wouldn't know anything.
Well, indeed, and it's actually there have been studies that have suggested that women in their most fertile periods are actually then most attracted to men with beards.
How about women with beards, Tom?
I've seen no studies on that.
Yeah, you don't want to get there, Tom. Tom, don't go into that, honestly.
Right, let me ask Tom a question. Have you got a beard yourself, Tom?
I do have a
there's
beard.
a funny thing. So here's a skewed study then, which is all about men with beards. He's got a beard, you've got a beard. I feel like I've been stitched up here.
there's a built-in bias, I must admit.
Yeah. Tom, I am, amongst other things, a student of the English language, and so when I read through Shakespeare, which I do about once every 6 months...
He had a beard, didn't he?
He had a beard, yeah. There is a line in Macbeth in which a man describes another man as a cream-faced loon, and that, in fact, is an absolute reference, Tom, to what you've just said. The immaturity of the boy who's the cream-faced loon indicates that because he didn't have a beard, he was therefore a cream-faced loon and an inferior person in the play.
I think that is there's science to back that up.
Yes.
Now, what about politicians? Because you don't see very many politicians with beards doing terribly well. I mean, for example, I can't think of one head of state, certainly in the Western world, who has a beard. I mean, Vladimir Putin doesn't have a beard. David Cameron doesn't have a beard.
Fidel Castro had a beard.
Well, Fidel Castro's a dictator.
Yeah, well...
It's not a very good example, is it?
Well, he was...
Nobody had to vote for him. He never had an election.
No, I know, but he conquered the country in the first place, didn't he?
I mean, what about, Barack Obama didn't have a beard. Bill Clinton didn't have a beard.
Actually...
Al Gore had a beard. He didn't get in.
Actually, this is very interesting, Tom, because you're an American and you may be able to back this story up. When I once worked in Washington and Jimmy Carter, peanut farmer, was the...
I have lust in my heart.
Yeah, I've lust in my heart. When he was the President of the United States, his people, his spin doctors, as we'd call them now, actually considered at one stage getting Jimmy Carter to grow a beard because he was seen to be so weak and vacillating. No. So he'd look tougher and stronger in the face of the Iranian embassy siege. The Iranian embassy takeover.
I've heard that anecdote as well, that he would project virility, and I think they may have been right. There has been a popular misconception that if you have a beard, you will be perceived as hiding something, as being deceptive, as being sort of sketchy.
Yeah, see, that's what I normally would have believed. That's the story, and that's the huge wave of kind of research has normally said that kind of thing. Because a lot of men with weak chins, I find, grow beards just to hide the fact that they've got a weak chin.
Do you mean the chinless wonders?
Sort of chinless wonder type.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, listen, all the great seafarers, Tom, have beards. So Sir Francis Drake, one of the greatest British heroes of all time, the man who conquered South America, the man who single-handedly beat the Spanish.
South America.
Yes, he did.
Francis Drake.
Sir Francis
Drake.
Sir Francis Drake, Tom,
North America.
South America, stole so much gold off the Spanish that we had to invent the Bank of England to put it in.
That's also rubbish, by the way. You said that before, and it's not true.
That's how good he was. And let me tell you this, he had a beard, and one of the reasons he had a beard was to gain the respect of his crew, because they were a motley bunch, those naval crews in those days, No,
I think you make a list of your great men throughout history, and I think you're going to see a lot of men with beards, and just a few clean-shaven, right? I mean, you got your Socrates, you already mentioned Shakespeare.
Abraham Lincoln
has a beard.
Yeah, but these are all people from the sort of a very, very long time ago. And I would repeat, Tom, that, you don't see many successful Hollywood actors with beards. You don't see very many successful politicians with beards. You don't see that many successful sports stars with beards. So, I mean, I'm not sure about this study.
At least in the United States, the sports star is starting to change. We have a couple of basketball players with beards. The Boston Red Sox, famously, a lot of them had beards. I think there's the tide is turning on the facial hair for men.
And can you honestly say, Tom, that you're more successful with women because you've got a beard?
Well, so I've been married for quite some time, but
really?
I'm successful with my wife, so that's something, right?
Yeah,
Did you have a beard when you met your wife?
I did.
Yeah.
And so there you go. That's science.
And you're off the market now because your wife is clearly a very attractive woman, attracted by
Really?
Well, she's clearly a very attractive woman because Tom sounds like
I can confirm
a great guy.
that.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. The reason I have a beard, Tom, was by accident. But when I was 18, I met my girlfriend for lunch when I was a young reporter on a newspaper. She said, "Oh, you're growing a beard," and I had to say, "Yes, I am." Whereas in fact, I cheated on her and gone home with another woman the night before and didn't have my razor.
Shocking.
But I've had a beard ever since. So the point is, you can get a beard by mistake, but stick with it for life. That's what I did. I look better with a beard.
I feel like that does not reflect well on the rest of us beard havers.
I think you may have to rethink this entire study, Tom. But listen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Tom Bartlett, their senior writer at the Chronicle of Higher Education, telling us all about this study in the Journal of Marketing Communications. I think the bottom line of this is that whether or not you have a beard doesn't make you trustworthy. The story you've just told incredibly well illustrates how untrustworthy you are and how you're willing to cheat on a girlfriend and lie to her and pretend that you've grown a beard. You've had one ever since. And almost it's like a mark of the disloyalty that you've shown throughout throughout the course of your life.
Sorry, of course, the loyalty you've showed to your successive wives, partners, children that you abandoned in America, of course, makes you much more trustworthy than me,
I'm not
right?
saying I'm more trustworthy than you, but I'm saying I don't need a beard to
and
tell
next
me that.
time, pal, could you do your research before we get a guest on from the United States of America so that you know exactly what's in the report we're talking about, not the opposite, as you put it to him tonight? You embarrass me!
Sport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes, Mr. Mike Parry and myself, Mike Graham. We've got loads more to talk about. Right now we're going to talk about some wine because not only is it a favourite tipple of Mr. Mike Porky Parry on several occasions, but it has apparently been revealed that it's been a very, very worthwhile tipple for Sir Alex Ferguson because they're selling, Mike, his a wine collection. I suspect not his entire wine collection, but they're going into his vaults and his cellars and finding out that he's got about 3 million quid's worth of wine.
Unbelievable.
Which is, an extraordinary amount of wine, really, and an incredible value to it. I mean, I can't ever imagine keeping a bottle of wine for any purpose other than to drink it.
No.
But he obviously is. A lot of these wines he was given as gifts. A lot of them were like thousands and thousands of pounds that Jose Mourinho gave him one.
I was at a dinner once, Mike, and Sir Alex Ferguson was there with his wife, Lady Ferguson, and an extremely well-known Premier League referee walked from his table, which was some distance away, over to Sir Alex Ferguson, presented Sir Alex with a fine bottle of red.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And the guy was...
It's not a guy who's recently written a book by any chance.
No, it's not. But the guy was he was an active referee at the time. I mean, he was working. Oh yeah. It was pretty well known that Alec liked a bottle of red.
Yeah, well, he certainly did.
And by the way, I don't mean that as a drinker. I don't say that he's a lush or anything like that. Far from it. But he did collect vintage wines.
Yes, he did. And he was known to share the odd bottle of wine after a game, wasn't he, with opposing managers and stuff like that, if he liked them. Well, we're going to talk now to somebody who knows an awful lot more about wine than you and I put together. Jane D'Aurelia is the president of the American Wine Society, and she's in North Carolina, I believe. Jane, a very good morning to you, and welcome to our show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you.
Thank you very much.
I love the tinge of your southern accent down there in North Carolina. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson is probably not necessarily a guy that's as well known in the United States, although he does have an apartment in New York as he is here. But he's a very, very famous football manager. Incredible collection of wine that he's got, £3 million worth, they believe. A collection includes vintages dating from 1986. Lots of it, he says, has got sort of significance in particular years that his team did well and that kind of thing. Lots of gifts. I mean, obviously people do collect wine, but in this day and age of kind of austerity, is it surprising that he's got such a valuable collection?
No, not at all. If you are a wine connoisseur and that is your passion, you would certainly invest in, or if he's been able to receive gifts, what a perfect way to establish a well-versed seller as he has.
Yeah, I mean, some of this wine is likely to attract bids for as much as £75,000 a bottle, like $100,000 a bottle, $100,000 a bottle.
Unbelievable.
I mean, what kind of wine would that be?
Well, that's your most prestigious wine from the estates in Burgundy. I think he has a Dôme de Roman Confit. This is, the absolute most prestigious wine in the Burgundy area. So if he has wines like that, he has opened a door to a whole new facet.
Jane, it's really interesting this, but it's very, very highbrow, isn't it? Because take me, right? I wouldn't know the difference between a glass of Beaujolais and a glass of Petrus. And a bottle of Beaujolais probably costs about £6, and a bottle of Petrus probably costs about £25,000. And, you've got to have a very, very well-educated palate to be able to tell the difference between a glass of wine costing, a few pounds and a glass of wine costing tens of thousands.
Absolutely, and it's not always the cost; it's the education of your palate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can appreciate those that are of less financial estate versus those that are quality wine. So sometimes things are overrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mr. Parry, I'd have to say, without giving too much away, Jane, is more likely to guzzle down a couple of bottles of Pinot Grigio at a time, which is a very, very cheap Italian wine, as you know, rather than something like a Sancerre, which I would sometimes explain to him would be better to have with a meal.
Absolutely. It's a very food-friendly wine, Sancerre.
Yeah, but the problem is that in this country, we rate the drinking over the eating, you see, Jane. So
might do. I don't.
No, most people do. What I was going to say is, Jane, it's a point that Mike's just opened up with you, and I want to develop that. Can the fact that I have been drinking, white wine, Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Chenin Blanc and all this sort of stuff for the past 30 years, could that in fact have, with the acidity that you get in white wine, could that have burnt away the taste buds in my palate so that I'm unable to appreciate a good red?
Well, now it would depend on how much you have acidified.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't, there isn't actually a measure for the amount he's had, I'm afraid.
That's a bit harsh. Yeah.
I think that's a personal issue on your part, but I do feel that if you keep your palate open and creative and interested in trying new things, that you could certainly appreciate these reds, because the acidity in whites, that is a beginning point, but the tannins and the voluptuousness of a red wine is where it's...
I have something that occurs to me. I'm not sure whether I should be sharing this, but quite often when I drink a particularly heavy red wine, regardless of the price of it, but say a Shiraz maybe from Australia or a Merlot even from the New World, maybe like South America somewhere, I get a kind of a residue of red stuff around my lips, which I have to be careful to remove every time I have a glass of it. Now,
that's because you drink it out of a bucket, basically.
No, it's not because I drink it out of a bucket. But I mean, does that signify that a wine? I mean, I know that there's often sediment in the bottom of a bottle, but I mean, is there any significance to how much of that kind of residue, I suppose you might say, is left on a glass? I mean, can you tell how good a wine is depending on whether you get the old red lip syndrome, as I call it?
No. It depends on the intensity of the grape. It doesn't have anything to do with what's in the bottle, other than the grape that went into that bottle. If the intensity and the purity of the grape is such that it leaves you with purple lips or the residue around the mouth, I don't want it in the bottle.
It's not very attractive. It's not a very attractive.
No, it
thing.
isn't at all. No.
The one disadvantage we have in this country, Jane, is that we don't have any etiquette in our wine drinking. We don't have etiquette, yeah, and we don't have good manners. So this idea that when you open a bottle of red wine, you've got to let it breathe for 2 hours before it actually, becomes, properly ready to drink. A bottle of wine doesn't last 20 seconds in this country before you've thrown it down your neck, and that probably contributes to the fact that we don't appreciate it properly, yeah?
Is that the standard for
No,
your
he's
country?
speaking once again
it's pretty standard.
for himself, Jane, I think.
Pretty standard.
There are those of us actually who decant the wine first and give it a chance to breathe.
Like in the Mayflower the other day, you were decanting bottles of red wine, were you?
No, because I wasn't drinking red wine that day.
No, of course you weren't.
But let me ask you another question, Jane. I mean, people who buy this wine at the auction, they're going to be spending upwards of maybe £20,000, $30,000, something like that for a bottle. Will they ever drink it, or are they just going to keep it and hope that it accrues in value?
Oh, no. They will drink it. If they are going to be willing to spend that kind of money on a bottle of wine, they are passionate about the palate, the flavor, moving forward. No, they will drink it.
I find that really odd. Jane, let me put this to you because you're an expert, right? I'm
not an expert. I'm an educated wine consumer. I am not an expert.
Well, you are the president of the American Wine Society, Jane, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, believe me, compared to my colleague here and me, you are an expert by any definition of the word. But Jane, what I was going to say to you is this: white wines, New World wines, very nice for me. I like Argentinian, Chilean, and Australian and South African. But red wine for me, red wine is only a proper red wine if it comes from France. All of the red wines everywhere else in the world are just poor imitations, pretty tacky tasting experiences compared to French red.
That's rubbish.
That's a very narrow viewpoint from your stand. No. Red wines are
you're telling me he's wrong, Jane.
really well.
Well, I don't get the Australian Reds at all, or Californian Reds or anything. It's got to be, to me, it's got to be French because, you know, Châteauneuf du Pape. You know, this is a great label, isn't it? You know, it's a Beaune. You know, a Fleury. These are wonderful
Fleury's
historic.
not a wonderful wine.
It
at all.
is. It's beautiful
it's
wine.
Light. It doesn't have any body to it. It's like Beaujolais. Isn't that right, Jane?
No, it is not right.
Thank you.
They have body, they have diversity, they have a blend of beautiful bouquet of and palette.
Of course.
I think you have a very narrow outlook.
I'm not sure we've got much more time for Jane.
Yeah, well, we've got plenty. Jane, we've got plenty of time for you. Believe me, he's being rude here. Earlier on, we had a gentleman on who was an expert in beards, and he got his theory absolutely wrong about men with beards. And now he's got your definition of what is a great wine and what isn't completely wrong. Jane, I apologise on behalf of my colleague here, but you have been magnificent to us tonight, and you've educated me in a way I never thought possible about the various wines in the world.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you very much indeed for joining us. Jane Duralia. As she said, she even admitted she wasn't an expert on wine.
You continue to make a complete
Fleury
oath of yourself
is a
tonight,
very
aren't you?
light wine. It's not a heavy wine at all. She's talking absolute rubbish.
We had an expert in beards, and you put it to him that, you know, men with beards are untrustworthy. He said, no, it's the opposite. Yeah. We've just had an expert on wine.
The man had a beard, bizarrely.
And you put it to Jane, the president of the American Wine Society, that Fleury is a cheap, nasty, thin and lacking in body type wine. And she said absolutely not. It's a wonderful blend of bouquets. It's a lovely wine. It's my favourite. It's my favourite red wine, Fleury.
We are the two Mikes. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. This is TalkSport Extra Time. And, Mike, it is Good Friday, and so we're going to wish everybody a very happy Easter.
Indeed.
We've looked at all the back page news. We should have a look at some of the stories on the front pages, though.
Definitely.
Before, we let you go, because there's loads going on. I love this picture on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. I don't know if you had a chance to see that. Yeah. But it's from the one of the sort of the passion plays that goes on in Europe, right? And it's taken from Holy Week at the Cathedral of Zamora in Spain. And it's penitents dressed, and we were talking earlier about confession and stuff. Penitents dressed in red velvet masks and white muslin tunics, standing in front of a statue of Christ on the cross, and it's a procession of silence. 2,300 people actually taking part. Amazing picture, isn't it?
Yeah, particularly if they've all got to stay quiet for all that time. 2,300 of them, yeah.
You'd never be able to do that, would you?
No, I wouldn't. No, definitely not. Do you know what always... And there's a picture of a cross here, Mike, right? And do you know what I've always wondered about that cross that Jesus had to carry to his own crucifixion?
Calvary.
Calvary, that's right, yeah. Who made it?
Who made the cross?
Yeah.
Well, it was probably made by the local artisans that make crosses. Because I mean, he wasn't the first person they crucified. He used to crucify people every week.
I know, but the thing is, what I don't understand is it must have been quite artistically made in the sense that I did woodwork at school, and the hardest thing in woodwork is to
ever asked you to make a cross then?
No, that's very cross. No, don't be ridiculous. But to get two joints to fit into each other, you see what I mean? Because this cross wasn't.
No, they tied them together.
No. This...
You don't look at the ones that you see in churches and think that's a proper reenactment. No. I mean, they just tied them together with rope.
This wasn't one bit of plank. This wasn't one plank put at a right angle.
Plank we're talking about here.
Listen, be more respectful. This wasn't one plank which was put at a 90-degree angle to another plank and then bound together with rope.
It
wasn't.
That's exactly how they did it.
It wasn't. If you look at the original depictions of the crucifixion, the cross is one smooth cross. So what some local artisan...
That doesn't mean it's right, though,
some local carpenter has spent time sawing into one bit of the wood
I'd very much doubt that.
and then the other, and then pushing them together to make a smooth surface.
I very much doubt that.
Well, I mean, I can't see how you could crucify somebody on a cross that was, not sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, sort of face on between the two bits of wood. You see what I mean? Yeah, tongue and groove. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's a depiction of it here. It looks as though one bit is stuck into another.
That's what I said. Now they are. Look, this. You see what they've done. So, yes, but that's a painting of the actual scene. We weren't there. They didn't have photographs in those days,
exactly.
So you had to rely on paintings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, anyway.
But I've just proved my point there. That showed, didn't it, a tongue and groove joint?
It proved nothing at all.
Yes, it did.
Never mind
all
that.
So you're so unwilling to accept that I get most things right. You just sit there in your your fatness and try and ridicule the common sense that I bring to these
I'm
hours.
very happy that you're satisfied with getting most things right. I actually strive to get all things right.
Yeah, but
anyway,
you don't
let's
succeed.
have a look at the front page of the Sun. Prime Minister attacked by jellyfish.
I know, this is a good one. Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it?
And they're not referring to. It's not a euphemism for one of the members of his cabinet either.
Well, as you'll find on the Daily Mirror, which of course is not a pro-Tory paper, they say, newsflash, wobbly, spineless creature stung by jellyfish.
That's quite funny, actually.
So they've turned it round, absolutely, yeah. Have you ever had an experience with the jellyfish?
Well, I have, actually. Once I was swimming off the coast of Long Island. When I was first in America, when I was very young. I was only about 20, 21, something like that.
Long Island Sound?
Long Island. Actually, I was on the south side of it, so I was on the
yeah.
Atlantic side.
Yeah.
I had an aunt that lived in East Hampton, and which, of course, is the home of the rich and
Hamptons.
famous. Unfortunately for me, as I discovered to my horror, when I found her out there, it turned out she was a secretary for the local newspaper, and she didn't have one of those big mansions. In fact, she lived in a little bungalow miles and miles from the beach.
Cop, is it?
So that wasn't so good. But anyway, she left me swimming one day on the ocean, and I went out and I was swimming. A beautiful day. There was hardly anybody around, and I suddenly felt this terrible stinging sensation, all over my body.
Right.
And I had no idea what it was, and I was quite worried.
Think it might have been last night's wine?
Well, I wasn't really a big drinker in those days. I mean, I say that.
Just a couple of bottles a day.
Yeah. I mean, no, it was nothing to do with that. But it was the weirdest sensation, and I actually got quite frightened. I remember swimming back to shore and running out of the sea, because I didn't know what was going on, and it took about a good, half an hour for it to wear off. And I was quite concerned, because, I mean, some people, if they get stung by
have a heart attack.
A jellyfish, you can have a heart attack.
You can, yeah.
And it was only later that somebody told me that it was the tentacles, obviously, that just stretched across your body. Have you ever been stung by a jellyfish?
No, but what we used to do is when we used to go to Frith Beach, which is near Prestatyn in North Wales, for some unknown reason...
You don't get jellyfish up there, do you?
Yeah, you do.
Do you?
Yeah, you get loads of them. And they sit on the sand when the tide goes out. And I don't know why, but we were always encouraged to throw sand over them. I don't know why. Does that make them safer? And
I think it kills them.
Oh, it kills them, does it? Oh, I didn't want to go around killing animals because I'm a Christian, as I've been telling you for most of the last 3 hours.
That's the other reason that you failed in your mission.
No. I think the idea was that so people didn't actually stand on them and sting themselves, Here are some jellyfish facts here. This is really interesting. Jellyfish have been around for 700 million years. The box jellyfish is the deadliest ocean creature. It kills 40 times as many people as sharks kill. Jellyfish can sting even when they're dead. That's probably why I was throwing sand over them. And the best way to treat a sting is with shaving cream. So you should have run up to the house and got a load of shaving cream.
There is another way, actually.
Well, it says here, the popular myth that getting somebody to urinate on you when you've been stung is ludicrous.
Is it?
And just a ridiculous idea. No, trust you to fall for it.
Well, no, I've never fallen for it.
Trust you to fall for it.
I've never fallen for it.
Can you imagine you run up and down the beach in Long Island asking somebody to urinate on you? Please. I mean,
It's supposed to be popularised by perverts, by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
it was in Friends. That's why everybody believed it. Now, I should mention a piece on the front page of the Times. They've also got an Easter-themed thing. They've got Pope Francis celebrating Mass for the elderly and disabled in Rome yesterday. And he also washed and kissed the feet of 12 residents. That's the kind of thing you should do. So if you want to be a good Christian, you should go out now from this, go forth
That's rubbish.
Not procreate, but you should go and wash somebody's feet.
Rubbish, what for? What's the problem?
That's what the Pope does. It's good enough for him.
Why did you do it?
Why does he do it?
Yeah.
Because he wants to show that he's a very humble person.
But where does it come from?
What do you mean, where does it come from?
Where does the ceremony of washing people's feet come from,
no idea where
thickhead?
it comes from.
Well, I'd tell you where it comes from. Being a student of Christianity, it comes from the Last Supper, when the disciples got down on the floor and washed Jesus' feet.
Yeah,
you
so
know
that's
that?
the wrong way round, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, because he should have been washing their feet, surely.
No. That's what it's all about, believe me.
Right.
I know these things.
All right, let's look at the story down the right-hand side.
This is a worrying one, Mike. Read that to me, the Mirror.
Baby given meningitis by cat.
Yeah, and I've read this story earlier. The cat licked the baby and transmitted meningitis to it. That is incredibly worrying.
That is worrying.
Considering we were only reading the other day about cats that...
Cat with TB.
Cat with TB.
Millhouse, yeah. What happened to that cat?
Don't know, but these cats are getting dangerous. I'm telling you, my original theory about, whether we're going to have some control over the cat population seems more relevant now than ever to me.
Yeah. Now, listen, before we let you go, because sadly we've come very much to the end of the two mics for this week. We'll be back, of course, on Monday. I've got something to suggest to you for next week.
Go on.
Now, have you ever been on a mechanical bull?
No.
Okay, well, a mechanical bull, they've got one down in Houston. There's a restaurant very famous. It was made famous in the movie Urban Cowboy, I think it was.
Right.
It's a mechanical bull. It's like a rodeo, right? And that's how rodeo riders practice.
Oh, is
what
it?
you do is you sit on the top of this bull, and it turns around, and it goes up and down.
I don't fancy rodeos.
And you have to try and stay on, basically.
I've seen people break their back in rodeos in
would you like
episodes.
to have a go on this mechanical bull? Because they've imported one from Las Vegas, right? Kelly Brooker's got a bar here in London,
yes.
which is called, I think, what is it? The Steam and Rye Bar, somewhere in the city.
Yes.
Apparently you can go down there, you can have a drink, and you can have a go on this mechanical bull. And what I thought I would say to you is that we could do any number of things. I'm not sure I'm quite fit enough to do the mechanical.
No, I don't think you are.
How fit you are, so maybe you should have a go on it.
I could have a go on it. That's no problem at all. I could have a go, and I'd probably. I always thought if I was a rodeo rider that I would
You'd
always
have to have longer legs if you want to be a rodeo rider.
No. Short legs are better.
Well, if you're riding a pony, maybe.
No, not at all. No, a wild bucking bronco horse.
Yeah.
It would never throw me because of sheer determination. You see, that most of my life has been sheer determination to achieve.
Yes.
And
against incredible odds.
I wouldn't.
Not least your incredibly small power base, knowledge base, and size.
I'm going to ignore all that. I'm not rising to that. And I would simply ignore the pain of hanging on and just blank my mind to it. I've been trained to
it's not the pain
to
of
take
hanging
pain.
on.
It is.
You can't hang on. It's absolutely impossible to hang on.
No,
I tried the one in Houston because I was only in my 20s when I went down there, and I think I lasted about 10 seconds.
And you got thrown off.
You got thrown off. Yeah.
Well, hang on. You could damage yourself getting thrown off one of them things, couldn't you?
Yeah.
That's
why they put
expect
them in a
me
bar.
to do it.
I do expect you to do it. All right, well, I'll ask you again very, very soon.
What's the point of all these hoax? Is it the chicken and the egg time? Are we just yokes? Perhaps we're just one.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. And of course, Mike Parry is here as well. We are the two Mikes. And it is Easter weekend. We've talked about a possible resurrection on Easter Sunday. We're now going to talk about the meaning of life. And of course, Monty Python's Meaning of Life movie was absolutely fantastic. I presume you've seen that, have you?
Well, I have. But again, I'm not comfortable with having Christianity mocked in a way. I mean, I know it was...
Well, what makes you think Christianity's got the right to be the sort of one true religion that everybody should follow?
Well, we don't go around mocking Islam because we respect Islam.
Well, we don't go around mocking Islam. It's not allowed to.
Well,
the point is,
but you shouldn't mock religions. Everybody should respect everybody else's religion.
Well, some people don't believe in religion. Some people believe in
all
all
if you
sorts
don't
of
believe in
different
religion,
religions.
that's fine.
Some people are Hindu, some people are Buddhist, some people believe in the sun, some people worship the sea.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter as far as
Or
I'm
the
concerned.
earth.
Or the earth. The whole point about living on the earth is that you're respectful to other people and that religion as a
That's what I've just said to you, so stop taking the mickey out of Christianity.
I'm not taking the mickey out of Christianity. Like I said to you, I was raised as a Catholic. I went to a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic secondary school.
You still follow the Catholic faith,
do
you?
Not particularly, no, because I became disillusioned, you see, when I was an altar boy, when I used to serve the priest as his right-hand man, and we used to do Latin masses and all that kind of thing, and I became disillusioned
What
when
about
the priest...
this great new film that's out called Valkyrie?
Valkyrie?
Yeah, do you know what the plot is?
No.
Bloke goes into a confessional box, because I presume you went into confessional, did you, in your days as a Catholic? Yeah?
Yeah, I used to go to confession, yeah.
You did? Yeah. Really? It's good job you don't go these days, because you'd go in and you wouldn't come out for 2.5 days, would you, with your succession of crimes against
I was a child when I went to confession.
Domesticity, the family and womanhood.
Any crimes.
Hey?
No, I would go to confession as a child, and I used to get very upset about it.
What did you confess about?
Well, I mean, in those days, you used to confess about telling lies or stealing things. Or
like I say,
like
you'd been there for about 2.5 days.
No, because, they tried to terrorise you into this stuff, right? But the thing was, I would go into my local church with the local priest who knew me because I was an altar boy, and I'm like, this is meant to be anonymous. It's supposed to be like he doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
And of course he knew who I was because he would walk, as he went to the confessional box, everybody who was going to confession was sitting in the front pew in the church.
Really?
So he knew all of the people that were going in.
Well, anyway, the plot of this new film...
What's it called?
Valkyrie.
Are you sure that's what it's called?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Valkyrie, I think.
No, I don't think it is called that.
I think it is.
Because John Hearn and I talked about it earlier on.
Oh, really? What's it called then?
It's called Calvary.
Oh, Calvary, that's right, yes. That's
Valkyrie.
Right. Yes, Valkyrie.
That was, and Calvary, of course, has a religious connotation, doesn't it?
Does it? What is it?
You don't know what Calvary is,
No,
do
I
you?
don't know. What is it?
Is Calvary not where Jesus was forced to walk up to take the cross and be crucified?
Oh, was it? I don't know, really. Anyway, look, the point of my story is what happens...
How can you tell me about the meaning of religion and Christianity if you don't even know that?
Well, I don't know the name of the street where he last walked with the cross.
It was the Mount. It was Mount Calvary.
Well, no, it wasn't Mount Calvary at all. He wasn't crucified on a mountain. Anyway, listen, the point is, this Calvary, right? Of course, Valkyrie is the Ride of the Valkyries. That's a song, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's not really a song.
No, it's
more of a hymn.
Classical music, yeah. Anyway, point is... So the opening scene, because I've read the reviews, I read all the reviews, so I'm ahead of the game, you see what I mean?
If you listen to John Hearn and I, you'd be even further ahead of the game.
Oh, really? And anyway, the priest is in the confessional, and of course there's that wire mesh net, and then somebody's whispering to him, and what the guy...
You ever been to confession?
No, I haven't, because I don't follow the Catholic faith.
Okay.
So anyway, the guy who's confessing is not confessing at all. He's saying, I've got a grudge against Catholic priests. The one I really got the grudge against isn't around anymore, so you're getting it.
Yeah.
And
we talked about this the other day.
And the priest says, what do you mean? He says, well, I'm going to murder you, and it's going to happen in the next 7 days. Now, that's a pretty difficult situation to put a priest in, because if you're saying that he knows who the bloke is in the other bit of the booth, he's got a moral dilemma as to whether to ring the cops and say, I've got some nutter who wants to kill me, or whether he's got to keep faith with God and not reveal the secrets of what happens inside the confessional
and
box.
Also interesting that you used the word seven.
Frankly, I think I'd ring the cops.
Yeah, well, that's why you're not a priest. You know, it's a calling to do things which are good for other people. That's one of the reasons I became disillusioned, because the particular parish priest that I was the altar boy around was a pretty mean-spirited character. You know, tramps used to turn up looking for food and money, and he would kick him out of the church.
I don't blame him.
You don't blame him.
Flea-bitten tramp coming into my church and infesting
but that's what it's
it.
supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about treating everybody equally. Everybody before God is the same.
They should all have a sort of disinfectant room and put the people through that, you know, and then just clean them up a bit and then give them a few bob and send them on their way. Otherwise, you pollute the church.
Yeah, but the church is meant to be a place that you go where you can, you know, where you get sanctuary, for example, the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, but if people can't be bothered to keep themselves, you know, personally clean and hygienic,
on the street.
Well, no, it's not. Not at all. Not at all.
You can wash yourself on the street, could you?
Well, you can use public facilities, can't you? They're all over the place these days.
Near a shower somewhere down here on the Stamford Street or near Waterloo Station?
Listen, if you've got a will to do it, you keep yourself clean. Right. Well, I mean, you know, that's just a question of personal hygiene. You know,
that's a good definition of the meaning of life. But you don't have to be Christian to be to follow that particular.
No,
thing.
but it's a Christian belief. That's Christianity for me.
Every religion has the same belief. I mean, you just be nice to each other, and then everything's
no,
great.
no, it's more than that.
Unfortunately, the world
is more than that.
When was the last Christian thing you did? You didn't even bring me a bloody Easter egg.
No, I know, but I try and help people as much as I can. I was going through some of my accounts today to find out how much money I've given away to charity lately.
So and for you, it's all about money.
It's quite a substantial
figure.
Giving
money makes you Christian.
How else do I represent my willingness and my desire to help others in this world? Others less fortunate than me. I mean, you know, Mike, you're less fortunate than me in many ways, and if I can help you, I will.
I always say that to myself. I wake up in the morning. Why can't I be more like Mike Parry?
That's right, absolutely.
Absolute plank. I'm hoping you're going to be able to elucidate me now on Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones is this massive television show, which people have become totally addicted to. There was a story in the papers yesterday saying that it's going to get even raunchier. It's a very steamy, raunchy kind of show. It's on Sky Atlantic. And apparently 2 British former porn stars are going to play prostitutes in it. So it's already famed for its sex and its nudity, which makes me wonder why I've never actually watched it before. But apparently Jessica Jensen and Samantha Bentley, who I've never heard of, are going to join the cast. And it's all, I mean, it all seems to me a bit like a sort of video game. And it might be that that I'm sort of maybe a bit too old to get into it. But I must say I've never seen it. I may have to just watch it to see what it's like.
Well, I hadn't seen anything about it. And then somebody said to me, you should have looked at it. I think it's my niece, actually, said, oh, it's great and all this kind of stuff. So I got a box set ordered up on the old box, you know. I looked at it, but I didn't really fancy it, because I've never seen a Lord of the Rings film, because I can't get past the first half hour.
No, so long as well. I fell asleep watching the first one, I think.
Did you? And I've never read a Lord of the Rings book, you know what I mean? And now the Hobbit's
the latest film.
Well, you should read the book.
I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien is a fantastic writer.
Is he?
Especially if you're such a scholar.
Isn't it J.R.R. Tolkien?
That's what I said.
No, you said J.R.
I said not J.R. was in Dallas.
I know, J.R. Ewing.
Well, I said the 2 R's quickly.
No.
The point about the Lord of the Rings books is that they are a complete and utter analogy of Christianity, and that's the whole point of them. And being such a scholar of religion, I thought you would have known that.
Well, no, I don't deal in sort of fiction of reality. I deal in the reality of reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so anyway, so I have a look at it, and I suddenly find it absolutely compelling. Now, what I quite like about it is that there's a war going on between the North and the South in the... Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. And
I'm completely ignorant.
And the North are good people. They're all great people, you know what I mean? Yeah, and they're sort of rustic and a bit sort of rough.
Right.
But the Southern people all talk like sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of
no idea.
Cockney sort of barrow boys.
So it's like the North and South of England. Then.
It is, yeah. Is it? Yeah. And they come over as sort of scoundrels and a few sort of posh aristocrats, but mostly the will and the sense of righteousness is with those in the north. And as I'm a northern boy, I'm quite pleased about that, because for once the north can have the moral high ground over the south.
For once, what you mean? Normally, that's not the case then.
Well, normally people in the south talk about people in the north as being uneducated peasants and lacking in material goods and unable to understand basic words and all that kind of stuff. Which, of course, is a lot of nonsense, because the north was the area of Britain which created the Industrial Revolution, which led to us having the biggest empire the world's ever seen. Yeah. So you can stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Anybody down in the south who thinks that you're superior. I'm not being offensive.
I'm down in the south.
Well, you're typical of those sort of people.
Well, while you're explaining this, I would like people to let us know, Paul, because, of course, you are famous for sounding very, very confident about what you're saying. I don't know whether what you're saying is the way it actually works out. So you can text us on 81089, email via the website, talksport.com, and, of course, you can find us on social media.
It's bloodthirsty, by the way.
CS Extra Time, is it?
Oh, yeah, an awful lot of gore and blood in it, but that's what makes it actually quite shocking. And the very first episode actually opens with a double beheading.
Really?
Then there's a massacre in the snow, and the reason they do it in the snow is because blood looks good against white, you know what I mean? And it's very sort of vivid and all that kind of stuff. So if you've got a box set, maybe you lend me the box set and I could have a look at it. Well, I can't, because I called it up on the telly, you see
I
what I mean?
see, right. Yeah. You just downloaded it.
Yes, exactly, whatever you call it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
but
you can't really tell me whether it's worth looking at or not then, can you?
Yeah, I can. I think it is worth looking at, but it takes a bit of getting into once you got into it. And also, all the women in it are very good looking, very sexy. But I have to say, if you are a bit of a prude, I mean...
Well, that wouldn't be me.
I couldn't believe it when I was told, there's some warning saying... there are lurid examples of men's genitalia in this episode, and things like that.
So it's a bit of an adult series.
Well,
then.
very much so.
I'm Mickey Quinn, and that was the Two Mics on TalkSport.